Yeah.
All right, hi, Sins. How's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks. Good. It's okay.
Good. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what brings you in today?
Sure. So I think I told you we were talking the other day, and this big kind of explosion happened with this position that I'm in right now, where I'm helping out with this play. That's what I do, is I direct theater and youth theater, and I've done it for a long time. And this organization that's trying to put together a play to share their experiences as both a mark of educating the community in hopes of pushing change, but also for the kids to have that kind of, it's like a healing for them to speak their stories. Um, so I've been helping with them because none of them had any theater experience, and I was really close friends with two people that were in charge of that organization, and they brought me in.
Mhm.
So it's really been an honor, and I've learned a whole lot. But right in like the last 11th hour, when stress is high and it's a lot going on, and it's just very stressful, the woman who's in charge of me, right, the one who's over me, um, got very upset, lashed out, like not handling the stress of it well. And and I've seen this before, and I've been in that position before, where I'm operating in one area with certain things that are my job and my role, and
Yeah.
there's someone above me. And when things get really stressful, they react very badly and get very aggressive, very belittling, like harsh, like emotional abuse, like very harsh. And it creates all this tension. And I get stuck in the middle of all of it. And I feel like it's my fault that I've made them angry. And so
Mm.
anyway, it's churned up all this stuff. And so I've been spending the last couple of days really trying to reflect on what is my fault? Like, what if it, like, am I actually doing something that, am I overstepping my power in a way that upsets these people? Because this is the
Mm.
third time that in my lifetime that I've been in a position where this is the exact situation that's happened. And so
Mm.
I can't not help and think that maybe it's something I'm doing, or do I need to be aware of something, or is it really just their own mess and toxic? Is it just, is it a me thing, or is it a them thing, and where is the line? And so yeah, I'm so it's making me wade through all of this kind of self-awareness, but it also really triggered a lot of very deep set kind of emotional anger, bitterness, like hurt that I had to push
Mhm.
in order
Yeah.
to keep going in the relationship and to keep working with the work over all these different situations. It's just, I just had to kind of just take it.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually it all kind of dissipated and they got better and we all moved on. But I never really got an apology. And so I don't know. So I've been dealing with that the last couple of days.
Sounds like you've been processing kind of a lot of information. You're reflecting on kind of the pattern you're noticing that you're like, huh, it seems to be coming up a lot in my career path. Like, what if it's me? But also, you're trying to process your own triggers and try to figure out and unpack, like, what is it about this person or these specific people when they say these things to me that just comes up with like all these emotions and stuff. So I was wondering if
Yeah.
we could maybe unpack some of the feelings that you were kind of grappling with this week.
Yeah. Um, so if you see it kind of separately, one is guilt for sure. If like self-blame, guilt, like feeling like I've done something wrong, like surely I'm wrong. I've done
Mm.
it. I'm not, maybe not I'm wrong. That sounds more like shame, but just guilt. Like I've done this, I caused this, I'm a bad subservient person, I
I could have
overstep
done
my,
something to prevent it,
yeah,
or yeah.
I yeah. And confusion for sure, because with hurt mixed into that, because it's, in all the cases it was a person in a leadership position who saw my talents or abilities and said, you are what I need, and pulling me in and saying, you can do all of this, like I want you to go be free and work with me. And it was this really beautiful, affirming partnership and collaboration and creativity, and it felt like a
Mm,
working team. And then when things get really stressful, suddenly that person just flips, and I'm afraid of them. I don't want to be around them anymore. And I don't understand where my appropriate footing is anymore, if that makes sense.
yeah.
And sort of everything that I thought about the dynamic is suddenly totally different. And maybe I was wrong the whole time, thinking that it was like that to begin with. So definitely confusion. And then it hurts because I do think I have this really great partner relationship, and consider them a friend with all the work, and then suddenly for them to flip. And in all of the instances, I mean, I've never spoken to anybody with the harshness and meanness that they have spoken to me. So there's a hurt too, that
Yeah.
injustice kind of hurt.
Mhm.
um I'm like being like, how can you speak to anyone like this? And the injustice, like, let alone me, like I've done nothing but give and give and slave and work to try and help you with your vision, and now this is what I'm getting. I don't know, it's hurtful.
Yeah, I mean, the word that's almost coming up for me is like betrayal.
Yeah, it
It's
does
like
feel like that.
it's a distrust now. There's this like
Yeah.
sever in the relationship that
Yes.
you're disappointed that you had all these expectations and you were really kind of excited to be a part of a team, and then to be faced with the fact that everything you thought was true was like no longer your expectation. Like that's got to be pretty kind of rock your world in terms of what you thought, you were doing with this whole project.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've taken ownership in the project. Like I've invested. It's not like I'm just some third party who doesn't care. Like I
Mm.
really invested my heart into all of those projects, and every single time, um, yeah, it's been like a slap in the face, and it hurts so much. And yeah, but it makes me wonder if it was my mistake letting myself get that invested. Like, was that my mistake? Should I have stayed further apart and not gotten as central, even though I felt like I was invited to be? And
Mm.
trying to see what if there are steps I can take to avoid this happening again. Or is it just the nature of some people who are in leadership in the arts? Like arts people are kind of crazy. So I don't know.
That sounds like you're trying to figure out too, like, what are you responsible for? Like, are you
Mhm.
responsible for keeping yourself safe? Or if you trusted someone, you kind of were letting them hold responsibility over like that safety over you. Like, you were feeling like this
Mm.
person was someone I could invest my time in, someone who I trusted was going to use my experience, and we could, create this vision together. And like that ownership that's a huge piece. It's your investment, it's your engagement, it's time away from your kids, it's time away from your job. Like, so it's, yeah, I could totally see how that would be really almost demoralizing to have that person specifically come back at you like that.
That's a good word. Yeah. It definitely takes the wind out of you.
Mm.
Um, but that kind of in turn, it's like a big cyclical, like in turn, I had to stop myself and say, why did I let that become so important to me anyway? Like, what about my feelings of worth or purpose or affirmation was I letting come from? Like, I was letting this project help bolster that, my confidence in my abilities, my feeling of doing something important, all these things that make me feel good and sort of lift me up. And then to have it kind of smashed makes me think, well, maybe I should be better about making sure I'm not putting so much of my heart into that, and making sure that I don't have so much of my worth or sense of purpose come. That's hard to do in the art. It's hard, as an artist, that's hard. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I heard the word self-worth in there a lot. Is that something that you, in the past, when you've had these experiences, you said this is like the third time, right? So tell me a
Mhm.
little bit more about those past times. Do you think that those were other times where your self-worth was kind of thrown into the mix there and maybe kind of dinged your confidence too?
Yeah, I mean, and like I feel like my identity and my self-worth are strongly located outside of all that. I have, like, as a Christian, I have beliefs and faith about what my much higher purpose is and things that are not tied to what's actually happening circumstantially. However, as an artist and someone that does work, there you can't help but feel that kind of fulfillment. And
Mhm.
and again, like that relationship is really great working relationships. So like the first one was at a performing arts school where I was hired to come be a teacher. Um, and all the kids that went there really loved musical theater, and all the teachers they had so far were just straight actor people. They didn't sing or dance. And I was a big singer dancer. So I came in like this magic fairy princess
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
singing and dancing, and all the kids were like, yay. And so immediately my effect within the company was to pull attention and preference almost. I did not intentionally, just because of what I brought to the table.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so even from the get-go, there was always this sense of like threat, like, and I was aware of it, but I'm like, you brought me in to do all this, is what I'm here for. And
Mhm.
like, I'm not going to be less good at what I do because you're threatened by the fact that kids want to be in my class and not yours. Um, but at the same time, I'm like, you're my boss. I'm just here to teach the classes the best that I can. And so we worked collaboratively really well for a while until, again, like she was very emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive. It was always this push and pull. I never knew if I was walking into
Mm.
a hug and a good mood and like a good day working together, or like pissed off, being cussed out, like being told I was worthless and that this company doesn't need me and I'm nothing. And I never knew what day it was going to be. Um, but I love the work and I love the kids. So I stayed way longer than I should have. Um, and so for the years we worked together, I endured all that and worked and did this stuff. And I think built the program up really, really strongly from where it really was. And then she turned around and found some really, really, I don't know, in my opinion, lame excuses to fire me when it got to a certain point. And I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the kids. I didn't, she just was like, you're gone. And so the kids showed up the next day for classes with me not there. I don't even know what she told them. But through the, connections with the parents, they're like, we knew something. Like, they're not dumb. They're like, we see the dynamic. We know who she is. We work with her too.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of solace in the fact that they saw it and they were like, this is on her, not on you. You're great. We're sorry this happened to you, kind of thing. And then a similar kind of situation to the current one
Mhm.
happened with another show a few years ago, um, where I was put in second command leadership, and the same kind of situation. Like, we were really great collaboration, great work, really, really intense, stressful, like, circumstances. And when things
Mhm.
got too stressful, her reaction was bitterness, animosity, anger, venom, toxicity. And mine was not that. And it made the whole cast kind of take more, move toward me and kind of be against her. And even though I tried to
Yeah.
stand in the gap and like defend her to them and explain she's just stressed out, they were like, no, like, fuck her. Like, we're looking at you as our leadership now, and she can go
Yeah.
spin out. So again, there was almost like this unintentional mutiny almost. I don't know, which makes me feel like my mere existence just causes problems, which that sucks. Or like my talents, or I don't know. It makes I don't know. I don't know.
I would challenge you on that just in, does it cause problems for you? Or does it cause problems for other people that then you have to deal with?
It really is only these three people. And because
Okay.
I've had other working relationships that were just that stressful in the same exact circumstances that were wonderful and never became that. And those directors were like, I need you by me always. And they took me with them for a decade. Wherever they taught, they brought me with them because they're like, I love working with you. You're so great. You can do so much stuff. And they never felt threatened and they never reacted badly. So the kids loved them. Like it was a great working, healthy, positive experience
Yeah.
with both of them for 10 years. And I'm still working with both of them. So I have to think that part of the variable is just the personalities of these three particular leaders.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, there's a common denominator here, and it seems like
Yeah.
there's kind of like an emotional immaturity, toxicity component to each of these three people. I'm almost, it reminds me of like a toxic like family dynamic, right? Where you're
Yeah.
so close and enmeshed and emotionally reliant and the codependency. And then all of
Mm,
that starts churning and churning and churning and creates these threats, like you mentioned, and they're feeling threatened because everyone likes you more. And that brings up all of their issues from people not liking them over time because they're not very nice and
yeah.
because they're not very emotionally available or mature. And then because you are emotionally available, mature, you kind of end up commonly finding yourself in the middle between them and everybody
Yeah.
else.
But I also know all three of them well enough to know that there is some pretty severe harm and hurt in their pasts
Mhm.
that never was really fully healed from. So in some ways it's kind of like I find my compassionate side taking all these beatings and allowing it because I know that they are just hurt, wounded animals in a way, which is not healthy for me. But I don't know. I'm trying to challenge myself in what is the healthy, good, but still caring way to like approach these situations. Even now, the woman who I'm working with right now reamed me out, said some horrible things, was very, very aggressive and harsh. They ignored me for 2 days when was like, I need to get your office. I need some things.
Mhm.
And then finally yesterday morning, or I guess 2 days ago morning, she just flipped. She's like, oh yeah, of course. Like, come. It's almost like bipolar. It's almost like you never know what you're going to get. And honestly, I'm just so relieved to not feel the tension. I'm like, I don't even care. Like just move forward. And now we're good. And I'm gonna make sure I don't piss you off anymore, which means now I'm watching everything I say and do.
Mhm.
Um, because I just gotta be with you for a week and a half. Then the show closes. And I never have to worry about seeing you again in this dynamic. And
Mm.
so I think if I were to have one big question right now that I'm wrestling with is what how important is it to me or overall from a principle standpoint for me to get the apology, for us to have that conversation? And do I think that she even has the self-awareness as a human to understand that, for that to even be a conversation that can happen? Like,
Yeah.
is it like trying to have a deep conversation with someone who's just, like you said, not mature enough to even have that conversation? So why even try? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think at the bottom of it, there's that hurt from other apologies I feel like I'm still owed that I never got.
Mm.
And just taking it all and being like, well, that's life.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing also, so you mentioned that you like practice the Christian faith. So like I know forgiveness is a huge part of that. And
Mm.
so in the past, when you haven't gotten these apologies, has that like had an impact on your ability to like forgive and move on? Or is that something that you've thought about?
No, I think that I've felt peace from my own work. Like I never, partially because I was probably afraid. I never
Mhm.
really, I never really felt the pull to go back to those people and say, hey, you did this, and this, and I think that's not fair.
Yeah.
Um, and owning up what I did too. Like, I'm not saying I was perfect. There's certainly things I could have done better, and I try and learn. Um, and the director of the show, the second person, we had a big hash out. But there were still a couple of things that I mentioned that I felt like I needed apologies for, and she was still like, "Oh, that wasn't me. I didn't do that." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And but now I'm in this one, and it's present, so I feel like the ones in the past don't bother me that much, really. I mean, it's but then being again in this current one makes me think like my time is now. Like, should I try and approach it from a standpoint of, can we really reconcile in a way that even makes me feel good, as opposed to us being only kind of surface reconciled, where I
Yeah.
still have wounds that I'm just being kind and forgetting and moving past because I care about you. And
Mhm.
I know that I'm willing to take that hit. Um, so do I decide that I'm not willing to take the hit? I guess is the question, is where I am, and wrestling through what is keeping me from wanting to have that conversation.
Yeah. It kind of seems like you also don't know where to set the boundary. There's this kind of push and pull of how engaged do I want to be, not only
Yeah.
in the project, but in the relationship. And where do I draw that line where I say, you can't talk to me that way anymore, or what the consequence of them, treating you this way would maybe be, because that's going to come down and be a sacrifice for you too.
Yeah.
If you set a
That's true.
boundary, then you're going to lose, something you might like, or you might lose parts of that. So I know we're kind of coming
Mm,
up on our time here, but I really would challenge you over the week to kind of think about like, what would be maybe a healthy boundary that I could set that's within my control, where I still get to, see the kids, still get to participate, still get to kind of pour your heart into it. But maybe just with this specific relationship, you know, maybe not get hit so hard with the negativity, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's true.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, sure. Well, I appreciate it.